People ask me a lot about the wildlife that I've seen on my thru hikes, and I feel like they often either ask with concern, they're worried about running into wildlife on their own hikes, or with curiosity because they're hoping to run into wildlife on their hikes. So today I thought I would just have a nice little chat with you guys about the different wildlife that I've seen on my thru hikes of the Appalachian Trail, the Colorado Trail, and the Foothills Trail. By the way, you guys, if you watched my video about, oh, sorry, my nose is itchy. If you watched my video about my crappy week from a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, then you'll know that I was having some sewage issues and I was out of my apartment. Real disaster. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm still out of my apartment. It's been almost a month at this point. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because I'm not in my own space. I don't have the best lighting. I don't have my little tripod. So I just have my phone leaning against my computer and, there's a TV in the background. I'm by the only lamp in the Airbnb that I'm staying in. It's kind of dark in here. So I just wanted to say, be patient with the quality of video today because I'm not in my own space, don't have my own stuff, all that. Okay, so let's talk about the AT first. I feel like the number one question I get asked about wildlife on the AT is, did you see any bears? And people get very, very concerned about bears. And I will say this about bears. I saw 3 bears on the AT, but there were many other circumstances where I'm pretty sure I heard some bears in the night plodding around camp, looking for snacks maybe, being curious. And there were also several circumstances where I came around a bend. This especially happened in the Shenandoah. I would come around a bend and someone would say, "Oh, you just missed a bear. There was a bear right there." And I also saw a few bears while I was in the car. So I saw a bear from the car when I was in the Great Smoky Mountains. I saw a mama bear and some baby bears from a car when I was in the Shenandoah, but I don't really count those bears. I don't count them in my count of the bears I saw on the AT because I was in a car, so I wasn't actually on the trail. So trail bears on the AT, I saw 3 of them. 2 of them were on the same day in New Jersey. I had been so frustrated that I had not yet seen a bear. Everyone saw like a zillion bears in the Shenandoah. Literally, I talked to somebody who saw 13 bears in the Shenandoah. I didn't see a single one. So by the time I got to New Jersey, I was really frustrated. I hadn't yet seen a bear. And then I happened to be hiking by myself that day. I was trying to do a marathon day of 26 miles, which I did achieve. And I ended up seeing 2 bears in that same day, which was really freaking cool. But the downside was that one of them was at dusk because I was doing this marathon day and I had stopped for a couple hours at this amazing trail magic. I had to hike into the night to finish my marathon day. And one of the bears I saw was at dusk. And so then, it ran off into the sunset, but then it immediately got dark and I was alone. And I was like, oh no. And so I was hiking along, listening to Dua Lipa. And suddenly, what do I see ahead of me is this tall animal with this huge, bright pair of eyes. And no matter how much I clapped and yelled at it and stomped my feet and told it to go away, it just wouldn't. And I was so freaked out because it was in the middle of the trail and I really needed to keep going up the trail and it wouldn't move. So eventually I just decided I had to put my big girl pants on and I had to keep on walking up that trail, which I did. And then once I did do that, I saw that it was indeed a deer, not a bear. So the bears, I saw it in the daylight, luckily. Way less scary in the daylight, obviously. And then I saw my 3rd bear running away from me through a field in Massachusetts. Oh, and by the way, if you guys happen to watch Stan the Man's YouTube channel, He hiked the AT last year, and he's been a trail angel on the AT for years. He was a trail angel when I was on the AT. That day that I saw 2 bears, my first bear, I came around a corner and there was this huge bear in the middle of the trail and it ran off. And right after that, I ran into Stan the man, and I'm pretty sure that he had seen that same bear. And then I had a nice conversation with him. He left a cooler full of cold drinks. Really great guy. You should check out his channel if you haven't already. But anyway, all that to say, 3 bears on the AT. That's it. 6 months, 3 bears. I also saw 1 porcupine on the AT. That was super cool. That was in Pennsylvania. I saw a few rattlesnakes. Most of them were in Pennsylvania. The timber rattlers are big in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the Pennsylvania trail is kind of overgrown. And sometimes the timber rattlers will be like right off the trail in that overgrowth. So careful where you step in Pennsylvania. My friend head chef almost came very close to stepping on one of those suckers because he was tindering while hiking. So I don't recommend that you tinder and hike at the same time. And then the other rattlesnake I saw was in Massachusetts. So surprising amount of wildlife in Massachusetts. A lot of wildlife in Pennsylvania, I feel like. A lot in New Jersey. I feel like those are probably not the states you would have expected me to say, but there you have it. There are also copperheads on the AT, which are another venomous snake, but I didn't see any. And I saw lots of deer, of course. Oh, I saw 2 pine martens in the whites. If you don't know what pine martens are, look them up. They're so adorable. Very vicious, though. They're in the weasel family, and they're so stinking cute, but apparently they're super vicious to their prey, which is like rabbits and squirrels and things. Saw about 1 million squirrels. Didn't really see as much wildlife as I expected to see on the AT, but I guess that should make sense because the AT is a really busy trail. And so I just imagine that the animals know that the people are on this strip of ground. Whoops, this chair's like not the most secure. I think that the animals probably know that people are on this well-traveled strip of ground and probably avoid it around the time when there are a lot of hikers. So I think that makes sense. But nothing concerning on the AT. I felt very safe. Like I said, I did think that I heard some bears in the night while camping, but the bears never bothered me. And if you are worried about bears, even if you're not worried about bears, please just properly store your food, because I mean, that's what brings bears into camp, and that's what makes problematic bears, is them getting a taste for human food and trying to get a hold of it and coming into tents and stealing food bags and all that. So please, when it comes to bears, especially, when it comes to all the animals, of course, but especially bears, please properly store your food. And then also, when we're talking wildlife on the AT, like, you're probably gonna see a lot of micro bears, mice. They hang out in the shelters a lot. They hang out around camp. I had many a micro bear, running up along the top of my tent, trying to find a way in to get snacks. My friend Moss actually had a mouse chew a hole into her tent one night. I heard stories about in the shelters, mice chewing holes into backpacks and food bags and all kinds of things. So again, just properly store your food, get it out of your tent, get it away from camp, because that's what's pulling these things in, and you don't want them at camp where you're sleeping and where you have all your stuff. If you want to know about any other specific wildlife on the AT, let me know. I did not see a moose on the AT. My friend Chef did. He was the fastest in our family. He was always in front, and he was just like blessed by the trail gods. So he ended up seeing a moose, at least one. He might have seen 2. And just he saw a lot more bears and things like that because he was always in the front. But it's okay, because I've made it up since moving to Colorado, and I've seen like 30 or 40 moose. So it's fine. It worked out. And how could I fail to mention the wild ponies of the Grayson Highlands? Oh my gosh, so adorable, so charming, so naughty. And in addition to that, you'll probably see a lot of black snakes on the AT. Just really big black rat snakes. Be forewarned, they're good climbers. Let us move on to the Foothills Trail in North and South Carolina. By the way, if you're looking for a short backpacking trip you can do in about a week to kind of do a shakedown hike for the AT or another long trail, or just to try out backpacking, I would highly recommend the Foothills Trail. It's so charming, it's so well maintained. It would be almost impossible to get lost on it because there's such good signage. There are all these beautiful bridges built on the Foothills Trail. It's just lovely and beautiful and green and very alive. So let me recommend that. I have a whole series on the Foothills Trail. If you're interested, go check that out. I have playlists for all of these hikes, but I'm just plugging the Foothills Trail because spring is coming and I feel like people want to get out and do practice hikes, and I did my Foothills Trail hike last spring and really loved it. So anyway, okay, so the Foothills Trail, it's only a 77-mile trail. So I was only out there for 8 days. We were taking our time, wanted to go slow. And so I didn't see any big stuff. I'm sure that there are bears down there in the area. And I've heard that there are also wild pigs down there, but I myself did not see them and I didn't see any signs of them. But I saw a lot of small, interesting things. So I told you I didn't see any copperheads on the AT, and I used to live in Washington, D.C., and so I would go hiking in D.C. and Maryland and Virginia, and I always knew there were copperheads around, but I never saw one. Finally, I saw 2 on the Foothills Trail, which was really exciting. They're venomous, so you don't want to step on them. You don't want to harass them. You shouldn't harass any wildlife, but especially you don't want to harass venomous snakes. But I'm a big nature nerd, so for me, it was really cool to be able to see them, and they blend in really well, which is probably why I didn't see them on the AT. And also, I was not the fastest in my family on the AT, so I feel like people ahead of me were always scaring things off. But there's a lot of water on the Foothills Trail, and it seems from my observations of these 2 that I have seen now, it seems that they like to hang around near water. So watch your step. The other super, super cool thing that I saw on the Foothills Trail was there are these special fireflies that are only found down in that region, like in and around the Pisgah National Forest. Fireflies called blue ghosts. They're much smaller than the regular big yellow fireflies that you see in the forest. They're a lot smaller and they emit like a bluish, whitish light. And they were named for the fallen Confederate soldiers from the Civil War because of the region that they're found in. They're really pretty. And when my friend Ibex started telling me about these, when we first started seeing them, she was like, oh, I think these are those blue ghosts. Like, I've heard of these, blah, blah, blah. I didn't believe her at first because I was like, how do you know? Like, how do you know these aren't regular fireflies? And then we started seeing the regular fireflies that are much bigger and emit a yellowish light. And seeing them next to each other, it was so obvious. But we had gone in mid-May, which was just the perfect time for fireflies. And so our campsites at night just kept getting flooded with fireflies, including these blue ghosts. So that was incredibly special. Also, because we were near water a lot of the time, there's a lot of rivers and lakes and creeks and things on the Foothills Trail. We saw like toad eggs in water. You can tell they're toads instead of frogs because they look like intestines. They're like long strands. And we saw a little fish, and we saw a dragonfly larva with a dragonfly coming out, which was pretty darn cool and gross, but cool. We saw lots of like little creepy crawlies. It was like, if you're not a creepy crawly person, maybe the Foothills Trail is not for you. But if you are a nature nerd and just like seeing cool stuff, it's awesome. And even if you don't like creepy crawlies, there's a lot of beautiful flowers in the springtime on the Foothills Trail. There are other things out there besides creepy crawlies, but that's what sticks in my mind is you know, the fireflies and lots of creepy crawlies. But I'm from Western New York, and that time of the year, like mid to late spring, is when in New York, lots of the creepy crawlies come out too. So I also suspect that is a seasonal thing. All right, on to the Colorado Trail. The Colorado Trail is incredible for seeing wildlife. So if you want to see wildlife, and you're trying to pick a trail for yourself, let me recommend the Colorado Trail. The Colorado Trail is almost 500 miles long. It goes from Denver to Durango, you know, across the state of Colorado. And I saw a ton of wildlife on it. I see a lot of wildlife in Colorado generally, but if you're starting the normal southbound way, you start at Waterton Canyon outside of Denver. And my friend Ibex and I started on a Thursday evening after I had gotten out of work. It's only like 45 minutes or an hour from Boulder in the car down there. So we just took a lift down there, started the trail, I want to say at like 5:30 p.m. And when you're walking through Waterton Canyon, it's a 6.7 mile hike until you reach the single track trail that is the Colorado Trail. So you're on this dirt road walking through a canyon for this 6.7 miles. And we saw a bunch of wildlife just in that 6.7 miles. We saw a bear that was swimming in the river. It was a small bear, and there were no swimming signs everywhere, but this bear was still out there swimming. It was super cute. We weren't sure at first when we saw it far away if it was a dog, but dogs aren't allowed in the canyon. And so we were like, is that a bear? Is that a dog? What is that? We got closer. We saw it was a bear. Super cool. We saw a beaver.
Oh, look at those chops. It's a beaver.
We saw this huge spider that had been paralyzed by a wasp, and the wasp was like dragging it off.
Come on, guy.
We saw an owl. We saw some bighorn sheep. It was a very eventful time in the canyon. And then elsewhere on the CT, saw more bighorn sheep. We saw a couple of moose from far away. Like I said, I've seen a lot of moose in Colorado, so I expected actually to see more moose on the Colorado Trail, but I ended up just seeing a couple. But that was still cool because, you know, I've seen it before, so no big deal. And we did see a couple from far away. And then the most exciting thing that I saw on the Colorado Trail was my very first ever mountain lion. It was so crazy. You already know this if you watched my Colorado Trail series, but I was alone at the time. I was hiking about 7:30 p.m. My friend Ibex was a little ways in front of me. I'd say probably like 10, 15 minutes in front of me. My friend Dory was maybe like half an hour or an hour behind me. So I was by myself. I come up and over Kokomo Pass, which is between Copper and Leadville. And then I go back down to tree line, get back into the woods, come around a corner, and what is sitting in the middle of the trail? A huge frickin' mountain lion. It was a crazy experience. Logically, in my mind, I know that mountain lion attacks on humans are very rare. Doesn't usually happen, even more rare than with black bears. But still, when you're alone in the woods, it's almost nighttime, you stumble upon just like a massive, gigantic mountain lion. You know, it gives you pause. It gives you pause. So I stood there freaking out for a minute, got on my pepper spray, made a video about my reaction because why not? I wasn't going to be moving for a minute. I just saw a fucking mountain lion. And I checked to see if I had service on my phone because I wanted to see how far behind me my friend Dory was, but I didn't have any service, so I couldn't text him or call him or anything to see. So anyway, the mountain lion, once it saw me, it just immediately took off in the opposite direction, ran into the woods. Unfortunately, the woods that it ran into, the trail, you know, went right toward and skirted around. And so I was like, I can't, no. And so I kind of cut down a field off the trail because I didn't want to get any closer to that mountain lion than I had to. And luckily, obviously, it didn't eat me. It just went off and did its mountain lion things. But something really interesting is, so I got to camp, which was maybe another like 0.3 down the trail. So we weren't too far from where this mountain lion was. So I camped very close to Ibex and Dory that night. But the interesting thing was when Dory finally showed up to camp, Ibex is like, guess what glow stick saw? And she tells him, and he's like, wait, don't tell me where it was. And so he guessed as to where the mountain lion was, and he got the exact spot. And he said that he felt something in that spot watching him. So I was like, well, Dory, you know, your intuition is working. So good on ya. So yeah, that was an exciting evening. I'll say that. But I actually ended up sleeping like a baby. I was kind of afraid I was not going to be able to sleep. I'd be too scared, but no, I was fine. But I was also sleeping literally like my tent was like a foot or two away from Ibex. I was like staying very close and cozy tonight. I should have maybe just crawled into her tent because she's a pretty big one, but I was okay. It didn't end up mattering. And then I only saw one snake on the CT, and I believe it was a bull snake, which are these really big snakes that we have. They look a little bit like rattlesnakes, but obviously they don't have the rattles on their tails, and I think that they're a little bigger, a little lighter in color. So I saw the one snake. I want to say that was the only snake that I saw on the whole CT. No rattlesnakes themselves. So, oh, and then of course there were lots of marmots, which are like chubby mountain woodchucks, basically. So cute.
Oh, cute. Oh my gosh.
Adorable. Lots of pikas, which are these really adorable little mountain rodents. And yeah, just a lot of wildlife in Colorado. So yeah, saw a lot of stuff. So that is my overview of the wildlife that I've seen on my thru hikes. I obviously hope I'm going to see some more cool stuff this coming hiking season. I'm going to be doing the Trans-Catalina Trail off the coast of Los Angeles in the spring. I'm going to be taking a short road trip through Utah in the spring. I'm going to be hiking the John Muir Trail in California in the summer. I'm hoping to make it down to Patagonia in the fall. So hopefully lots of wildlife sightings ahead of me. Let me know down in the comments what your coolest wildlife experience was or your coolest wildlife sighting. Or if you've hiked a long trail, let me know what kinds of animals you saw. Like I said, I'm a huge nature nerd, so I'm always interested in this stuff. I always want to see wildlife. And luckily, my number one hiking bud, Ibex, she's exactly the same way. We actually met on a college study abroad program to Madagascar, where we were just like running around the rainforest all the time and chasing lemurs and things like that. So it's nice to have a bud like that who's on the same page as you. But yeah, let me know about your wildlife stuff down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because like I said, I got a lot of cool adventures ahead. Hopefully the next video will be in a more appropriate filming location, either my own place or a lovely place outdoors somewhere. Wish me luck getting back into my apartment. I will need it. And I'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.